Hello, welcome back to HaitianGeni. So I wanted to talk about the myths about records. When I speak to Haitian people about family history, one of the concerns is whether or not there are records. With things like the earthquake, they may have heard or they may fear that records are destroyed, or they may have heard due to our strong history of oral history that no records do exist. Or they may have noticed online, if they've been fortunate to notice that there's not as many records as they would like in comparison to other places and countries. Now, all those myths are true. There's truth to those. If you remember the history of Haiti, it was once owned by the French. The island itself, was discovered by Columbus for Spain. And then Spain had it, and then France took the west side of the island country and made it Saint-Domingue. And so the French, they kept great records. Due to their history of keeping records, they continued on, and they took note of every detail so that they sent it back to France, and the king would know what was going on. And so online you can find these records of Saint-Domingue, which is around 1600s to, of course, the 1800s, or 1800, where France owned the island. And so one place you can find those records is the website Archives de Outre-mer. The abbreviation is ANOM, in which that is a French website in which all the countries that France owned or was associated with, they have their records. So from Martinique to Saint-Domingue to St. Croix to Algiers and so on. Someone digitized them, which means they took a camera and took pictures of each page. And so you can actually see what they saw in that camera shot, and you can flip through the pages. And the hard part, of course, is reading the writing. All the records were in French. And so if you can't read French, that might be an issue. Also, they're written in calligraphy. And so if you can't read calligraphy or cursive, that might also be an issue. And depending on who wrote, some were neat and some were not so neat. That might be an issue. But those are accessible, and you can find those, in which that'd be great if you can connect your present history to your Haitian history back to Saint-Domingue. That would be about, who knows, 12 to 20 generations possibly, if they've been on the island that long. And so somewhere else where you can find records is a website called, I know the spelling, it's agh.qc.ca. And I want to say it's called the Association of Haitian Genealogy. But this is a group of people who voluntarily have people working in Haiti looking at the records at the Archive National, in which they're translating these records into English, and they're putting them on this website that I mentioned. Now the website, in order to view the records, well, you can view the records. You just can't see the details of the records unless you pay a membership fee. And that membership fee goes towards the people who are working in Haiti, looking through these records and transcribing them. And now, of course, we'll put these websites down below in the box so that you can click on them and go to them. But that is a great resource. When I started, I couldn't find anything. I didn't know anything, but I found that website, and that was great to at least know that there's records and that people were working towards preserving them and transcribing them. And it's almost been 10 years that I can remember that I started doing that. Another site I think that's helpful is, as far as records, is FamilySearch.org. Now, FamilySearch.org is associated with the LDS Church, in which their mission in general is to go throughout the world and help preserve each culture and country's records. And so they've been doing that with Haiti, and they have some of Haiti's records, in which they've been able to, again, digitize. Someone goes over there, takes photos, and then they upload them, in which you're able to look at it the way it looks in the photo and flip through the pages. And so on there, they have digitally, they have some records from the early 1800s. I kind of have a gripe with the site because personally, and I think in general, us as Haitians or descendants of Haitians, because of the lack of access to records, we have a hard time tracing our ancestry from the present to the past. And so the easiest way to do that, of course, is to go chronologically from the present to the past. And so what makes it hard, at least that I found in doing my research when I was starting, was, okay, I start with my family and they tell me all the information that they remember. And so that would bring me to about the 1900s, depending on if my grandparents could remember who their parents were and if my parents knew who their grandparents were. And so that's without records. We're, just straight oral history. I'd find that information and I record it. Now to get beyond that, that's where I need records. And so if the only records I can find start about 1850 and go back to 1800, then I have a 2 to 3 generation gap, and I don't know how they connect. And depending on your family's name, it might be a very common name. So it might be pretty much impossible unless you just record all those names to figure out how you're connected. And then of course you have Saint Domingue's records, where same thing. If you aren't fortunate to have that gap filled, then it's hard to go back to Saint Domingue and to connect to who your Saint Domingue ancestors may have been. Even though the population gets smaller and smaller as you get to the past, there still are some common names where people are not related, but they share the same last name. So that can make it hard. So that's kind of my thing with FamilySearch. I kind of wish and hope that they would have worked, towards a more recent past of posting the records. I don't know. Maybe it was harder to find. Maybe it's harder to record. Maybe those records are not in good shape. I don't know. But I know that's what they have, and that can be frustrating because you find bits and pieces, but you can't really connect the dots too well. And so, yeah, I would say those are right now, the 3 top sites to find records. Now, the other issue with records having spoken to people, is that I've learned that these records that they're digitizing, of course, are a combination of civil records, which means the government records, and church records, so mainly the Catholic Church. And so the way it's supposed to work throughout the history is that no matter what, if you've been born, married, or died, the record should go to Port-au-Prince so that the government knows who is in the country, who they have as their citizens. And then depending on your religion, you have the church records if you've been baptized, confirmed, etc. They'll record their births or their baptisms or confirmations or being married in the church. Now, what tends to happen is with the Catholic Church, they're very protective of their records. So it's hard to obtain them. And I think as far as these websites, they're trying their hardest to gain a relationship, but it's not being very fruitful, at least not that I've seen. And so that's an issue as far as records, is being able to have a relationship with the Catholic Church in which they will allow us to view these records for family history purposes. The other issue is things like wills and notaries. That's another great option that's chock full of information, but that is protected by those who are in the notary and will side of the government, in which I'm assuming their concern is to protect the identity of those individuals and families that are filling out these wills and, doing their business that way. And so that's something else that we need to cross the barrier with, that will help increase people's opportunity in finding information to do their history and genealogy. And then, of course, we have the government records. Something that I come across in my history is the possibility of being related to leaders of the country. And so, if you're familiar with the history of Haiti, a lot of the leaders of the country were not fortunate to fill full terms or serve full terms in their candidacy as president, emperor, king, whatever. The country would end up revolting and either killing them or kicking them out of the country. And so the idea that I've heard is, as a result, anyone who is related to those families, their records, either to protect the family or to show unhappiness with the family, their records are not easily accessible. And so that's another issue that you may come across if that's how your family is as far as being related. Everyone may have stories that may be true and may not be true, that you're related to President so-and-so somehow, or King so-and-so somehow, or Toussaint Overture somehow. But to be able to trace it other than orally may be very hard, because the records may either be protected, hidden, someone in the family might have them, or they're just destroyed, possibly, either through natural disaster or through human hands. So that's something else as far as the records of Haiti. So I hope this video has been informative about how to find places that do have records, what it's like with records in Haiti, the different types, and some of the issues that may be surrounding the accessibility of these records. Again, I'm HaitianGeni. I'm on most of the social networks: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, as HaitianGeni. I have a Haitian Genealogy Facebook group which you can join, in which you can learn more tips and speak with others who are working on the Haitian ancestry. Hope your day is good. God bless.